The train platform was nearly empty. Christmas Eve morning, and most people were already where they wanted to be, wrapped in the warmth of family and tradition. Diana Wright stood alone on Platform 7, her designer luggage beside her, watching her breath fog in the December air. Around her, the station echoed with the hollow sound of abandonment. She checked her phone for the 14th time. No signal. The mechanical board above clicked and whirred, announcing what she already knew. All flights canceled due to the storm. Every rental car claimed. Every hotel room booked. The last train to Boston, leaving in 8 minutes, and she had no choice but to take it. Diana Wright, CEO of Wright Technologies, worth $4.7 billion, reduced to standing on a freezing platform waiting for a commuter train like everyone else. The irony wasn't lost on her. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing how far these stories of hope and resilience travel. Your comments inspire us to keep bringing you powerful narratives every week. Behind her, a small voice cut through the silence. "Daddy, is this the right train? The one that goes past the light park?" Diana turned slightly, not meaning to eavesdrop but unable to avoid it in the empty station. A man, maybe mid-30s, knelt beside a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6. He wore a worn jacket over a yellow sweater, jeans that had seen better days, and he held the girl's hand with the kind of gentleness that spoke of someone who knew how precious the thing they held truly was. "Yes, Bug, this train goes right past the Christmas light display. We'll see it from the window." The little girl, bundled in a red winter coat that looked slightly too big, clapped her mittened hands together. "Will we see the reindeer lights? The big ones?" "Every single one," the man promised, and even from several feet away, Diana could hear the smile in his voice. The train pulled in with a screech of brakes and the hiss of compressed air. Diana boarded first, moving to the nearly empty first-class car, settling into a window seat with practiced efficiency. She pulled out her laptop, determined to salvage something from this disaster of a day. Her assistant had begged her to leave yesterday. Her head of security had warned her about the storm, but Diana had insisted on one more meeting, one more negotiation, convinced she could control the weather through sheer force of will. She'd been wrong. And now she was stuck on a 5-hour train ride to Boston, missing the company Christmas gala, missing the investor dinner she had personally organized, missing everything she had meticulously planned. The father and daughter boarded after her, but they turned toward the regular cars, disappearing from view. Diana opened her laptop, stared at the spreadsheets that suddenly felt monumentally unimportant, and tried to ignore the hollow ache in her chest that had nothing to do with missing business meetings. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing how far these stories of hope and resilience travel. Your comments inspire us to keep bringing you powerful narratives every week. The train lurched forward, beginning its journey through snow-covered Connecticut. Diana had been working for 20 minutes, answering emails on her phone's hotspot, when she heard the commotion from the car behind her. "I'm so sorry, sir, but your tickets are for the regular car. This is first class. I'll have to ask you to move back." The conductor's voice was firm, but not unkind. "I understand, but my daughter, she gets motion sick in the other car. Something about the way it moves differently. I can pay the upgrade. How much is it?" Diana's fingers paused over her keyboard. She recognized the voice. The father from the platform. "I'm afraid the upgrade cost is $250 per seat. That would be $500 total." There was a long pause. Then quietly, "I don't have that much. I'm sorry, I thought maybe it wouldn't matter since the car is almost empty. We'll go back." Diana closed her laptop. She didn't know what made her stand up, what possessed her to involve herself in someone else's problem. She'd built her entire career on staying in her lane, on focusing on her own objectives, on not getting distracted by sentiment. But she stood anyway, walked to where the conductor stood blocking the aisle, the father behind him holding his daughter's hand. The little girl's face was pale, her other hand pressed against her stomach. "I'll cover their upgrade." The words came out before Diana could think better of them. 3 faces turned to stare at her. The conductor looked surprised. The father looked shocked. The little girl just looked relieved. "Ma'am, that's very generous, but—" the conductor began. "I'm covering their upgrade," Diana repeated, pulling her credit card from her wallet with the kind of finality that ended conversations, whatever it costs. The transaction took less than 2 minutes. The conductor moved on, shaking his head at the strangeness of people. The father stood in the aisle, his daughter pressed against his side, looking at Diana with an expression somewhere between gratitude and discomfort. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to do that. I would have figured something out." She looked like she was about to be sick on very expensive carpeting. Considerate, preventative maintenance. The little girl giggled, despite her nausea. "You're funny," she said. Her father put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Emma, remember your manners." "Thank you for helping me not throw up," Emma said solemnly, which made even Diana's mouth twitch towards something that might have been a smile. "You're welcome." Diana gestured vaguely toward the empty seats. "You can sit anywhere." She turned back toward her own seat, ready to return to her work, to her emails, to the safe distance she maintained from the rest of the world. But Emma's voice stopped her. "Why are you traveling alone on Christmas Eve? Don't you have a family?" "Emma!" Her father's voice was sharp with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. She's 6. Filters are still under construction." She should have said something cutting, something that would have ended the conversation and sent them to the other end of the car. Instead, she heard herself say, "No, I don't have family. Not anymore." "That's sad," Emma said, with the brutal honesty of children. "Everyone should have someone on Christmas." Her father guided her toward seats several rows away, murmuring apologies over his shoulder. Diana returned to her laptop, but the spreadsheets that seemed so important 15 minutes ago now looked like meaningless numbers on a screen. She lasted 10 minutes before closing the computer again. Through the gap between seats, she could see Emma kneeling backward, her face pressed against the window, watching the snow-covered landscape rush past. Her father sat beside her, pointing out things, making her laugh, completely absorbed in the task of being present for his child. Something in Diana's chest cracked, just a small fissure, barely noticeable, but it was there. They were an hour into the journey when Emma appeared beside Diana's seat. She materialized like a small ghost, her red coat making her impossible to miss against the gray and blue of the train car. "My daddy says I should apologize for being nosy, so I'm sorry for being nosy. But also, are you really alone for all of Christmas?" Diana looked up from her phone, startled. The girl's father was half standing, clearly ready to retrieve his wayward child, his expression apologetic. "Emma, leave the nice lady alone," he called. "It's fine," Diana said, surprising herself again. She seemed to be doing that a lot today. "Yes, I'm alone for Christmas." Emma climbed uninvited into the seat across from Diana, her feet dangling several inches above the floor. "But why? Did you have a fight with your family?" "Emma?" Her father was walking over now, looking mortified. "I'm so sorry. She's going through a questioning phase." "It's been 2 years," Diana said quietly. "Not a phase, a personality trait." The man reached them, put a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "Come on, Bug. Let's let the nice lady work in peace." But he'd said nice lady with such genuine warmth, such absence of judgment, despite Diana's earlier sharpness, that something shifted. "She's fine," Diana heard herself say. "I'm not getting much work done anyway." The man hesitated, clearly torn between removing his intrusive daughter and accepting the unexpected invitation. Finally, he sat down carefully in the seat beside Emma, keeping his distance, respecting boundaries. I'm Marcus Chen, and this is Emma, who apparently missed the lesson about talking to strangers. Diana Wright, she responded automatically, then watched recognition flicker across his face. You know who I am. It wasn't a question. I'd have to live under a rock not to, Marcus admitted. Your company's headquarters is visible from half of Boston, that and the business magazines my coffee shop gets. You work at a coffee shop? Diana asked, and Marcus's expression shifted, became more guarded. I own a coffee shop. Small place in Cambridge, nothing fancy. Morning rush pays the bills. There was something in his tone, a defensiveness born of too many people making assumptions. Diana recognized it because she'd spent years fighting similar battles, proving she wasn't just her father's daughter, that she'd earned her position. Ownership is harder than employment, Diana said, surprising them both. No safety net, no one else to blame when things go wrong. I respect that. Marcus blinked, clearly not expecting understanding from a billionaire in first class. Most people don't see it that way. Most people are idiots, Diana said flatly, which made Emma giggle. Daddy says we're not supposed to call people idiots even when they're being idiots, Emma informed her seriously. That's very wise of your daddy, Diana said, but sometimes accurate language is necessary. The conversation should have ended there. Diana should have returned to her work. Marcus should have taken Emma back to their seats. Instead, Emma asked, "Why don't you have family anymore?" And the train seemed to hold its breath. Marcus winced. Emma, that's too personal. My parents died in a plane crash 3 years ago. I was supposed to be on that plane, but I stayed behind for a meeting. They were going to our family cabin for Christmas. I chose work instead. The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Emma's eyes were huge in her small face. Marcus's expression had shifted to something Diana couldn't quite name. Compassion, maybe? Recognition? I'm sorry, Emma said softly. That's really sad. Thank you, Diana said, because what else was there to say? Is that why you work all the time? Because you feel bad about the meeting? Out of the mouths of babes. Diana felt something crack wider in her chest, that fissure becoming a chasm. Emma, Marcus said gently, that's enough questions. But Diana shook her head. She's right. I do work all the time. And yes, it's because I feel guilty. I built an empire my parents didn't live to see. I sacrificed everything for success they never got to celebrate with me. And I can't stop working because if I stop, I have to think about the fact that I chose a meeting over Christmas with my parents, and they died because I wasn't there to talk them out of flying in bad weather. She hadn't meant to say any of that. The words had simply poured out. 3 years of therapy condensed into 3 sentences spoken to a 6-year-old and her father on a train. Marcus was looking at me with such understanding, such complete absence of judgment, that Diana felt tears prick her eyes for the first time in years. You know it wasn't your fault, right? The crash, the storm, their decision to fly, none of that was your fault. Logically, yes, Diana said. Emotionally, I'm still working on it. Emma slid off her seat and before Diana could stop her, wrapped her small arms around Diana's waist in a fierce hug. My mama died too, Emma said, her voice muffled against Diana's expensive coat. Daddy says it's okay to be sad, but we can't stay sad forever because Mama would want us to be happy. Diana's arms came up automatically, awkwardly, to return the hug. She couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged her. Business handshakes, air kisses at galas, but actual physical comfort? It had been years. I'm sorry about your mama, Diana managed. Thank you for helping my daddy not be sad, Emma said, pulling back to look up at Diana with solemn eyes. He pretends he's okay, but sometimes I hear him crying at night. But right now, talking to you, he looks happy. Diana's eyes met Marcus's over Emma's head. He did look lighter somehow, the lines around his eyes softer. Emma, Marcus said gently, that's private. It's okay, Daddy. Diana understands. She's sad like us. They talked for the next hour, not about business or success or empires, but about real things. Marcus told her about his wife, Anna, who'd been a teacher, how she'd made every ordinary moment special, how she'd taught Emma to see magic in the mundane, how her death in a car accident had shattered their world into before and after. "I had a good job before," Marcus explained. "Corporate finance, long hours, good money. But after Anna died, I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't spend Emma's childhood in conference rooms making money for people who didn't need it. So I cashed in my 401k, bought a failing coffee shop, and rebuilt my life around being present for my daughter." "Do you regret it?" Diana asked. "The career you gave up?" Marcus looked at Emma, who'd fallen asleep against the window, her red coat bunched under her head as a pillow. "Every morning, Emma wakes up and knows exactly where I am. Every school event, every important moment, I'm there. That's not a sacrifice, that's winning the lottery." Diana thought about her own life. The corner office, the power, the influence, the endless string of meetings and negotiations and strategic decisions, the apartment she barely saw, the friends she didn't have time for, the relationships that withered because she was always choosing work. "I don't know how to do that," she said quietly. "How to stop, how to choose differently." "Maybe you don't have to choose differently," Marcus said. "Maybe you just have to choose more than one thing. Success and life aren't mutually exclusive unless you make them that way." Before Diana could respond, Emma stirred, sitting up suddenly. "Daddy, is it time? Are we almost to the light park?" Marcus checked his watch. 5 minutes, bug?" He looked at Diana. "There's a Christmas light display along this part of the route. It's the reason we take this train every year. Anna started the tradition when Emma was 3. We've kept it going." "We have hot chocolate and everything," Emma said, suddenly fully awake. She pulled a thermos from her backpack along with what looked like homemade cookies wrapped in foil. "Daddy makes the best hot chocolate. It has extra marshmallows and cinnamon, and it's perfect." "Would you like to join us?" Marcus asked. And the invitation was so genuine, so free of obligation or expectation, that Diana found herself nodding. "I'd like that." They moved to the side of the car with the best view. Marcus poured hot chocolate into paper cups, the steam rising and fogging slightly in the cool air. Emma pressed her face against the window, vibrating with excitement. And then the lights appeared. Thousands of them, maybe millions, stretching along both sides of the track for nearly a mile. Reindeer and snowmen, stars and angels, entire scenes depicting Christmas stories, all glowing against the snow in a riot of color. "Look," Emma squealed, "there's the big reindeer and the snowman family. And look, Daddy, they added new lights this year." Marcus was smiling, the expression transforming his face, years falling away as he watched his daughter's joy. "They did add new lights. You have excellent observation skills, Bug." Diana watched them, father and daughter pressed against the window, sharing this moment, this tradition, this continuation of love that extended beyond death. And something in her chest, that crack that had been forming all day, broke open completely. She was crying. Diana Wright, who hadn't cried at her parents' funeral, who prided herself on control, was crying on a train while looking at Christmas lights. Marcus noticed, his expression shifting to concern, but he didn't say anything. He simply handed her a napkin, let her have her moment, respected her grief without trying to fix it. "Thank you," Diana whispered, not sure if she was thanking him for the napkin or for something larger. "Anytime," Marcus said, and somehow she knew he meant it. The train continued through the darkness, the lights fading behind them. Emma had fallen asleep again, curled up in her seat, worn out by excitement and hot chocolate. Marcus and Diana sat in the quiet, the kind of comfortable silence that usually took years to build. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said finally. Diana nodded, afraid of what she might say if she tried to speak. "When's the last time you did something just because it made you happy? Not because it was strategic or necessary or good for business, just because it brought you joy." Diana opened her mouth to answer, then closed it, opened it again. "I don't remember," she finally admitted. "I genuinely cannot remember the last time I did something purely for joy." "That's not living," Marcus said gently. "That's existing. There's a difference." "I know that."
Diana's voice came out sharper than she intended, frustration and grief and 3 years of suppressed emotion suddenly bubbling up. I know I'm not living. I know I've turned myself into a machine that runs on guilt and obligation. I know my parents would hate what I've become, but I don't know how to stop. Her voice had risen, and she forced herself to lower it, aware of the few other passengers in the car. Marcus waited, giving her space to gather herself. After they died, Diana continued, quieter now, everyone expected me to fall apart. The board, the investors, the media. They were waiting for me to prove I was just daddy's little girl playing CEO. So I didn't fall apart. I worked harder. I built more. I proved them wrong. And somewhere in all that proving, I forgot how to be human. You're being human right now, Marcus pointed out. You paid for our tickets. You joined us for hot chocolate. You cried at Christmas lights. That's all deeply human. That's weakness, Diana countered. In my world, that's weakness. No, Marcus said firmly. In your world, that's been labeled as weakness by people who were afraid of their own humanity. But real strength is choosing to be vulnerable anyway. Real strength is my daughter asking you intrusive questions and you answering honestly instead of shutting her down. Real strength is crying when something moves you, even if it's just Christmas lights. Diana looked at him, this coffee shop owner in his worn jacket and yellow sweater who'd lost his wife and rebuilt his life around his daughter's happiness. How did you get so wise? Therapy, mostly, Marcus admitted with a small smile. Also, grief has a way of stripping away everything that doesn't matter. When you're left with the raw essentials, you learn pretty quickly what actually has value. And what has value? This, Marcus said simply, gesturing to Emma, to the space between them, to the train carrying them through the snow. Connection, presence, choosing to be here, fully here, for the moments that matter. Emma won't remember every expensive toy I couldn't afford to buy her, but she'll remember hot chocolate on trains and Christmas lights and the fact that her daddy always showed up. Diana thought about her own childhood. Her parents had always shown up too, until she'd convinced them their presence wasn't as important as her next deal, her next success. I don't know how to be that person. I don't know how to be someone who values presence over productivity. Maybe, Marcus said, you start by just being present right now. Not thinking about the meeting you missed or the gala you're not attending. Just being here. On this train. Having this conversation. That's enough. Diana took a shaky breath. Just be here? Just be here, Marcus confirmed. So Diana sat in the gentle quiet of the train car, listening to Emma's soft breathing, feeling the rhythmic sway of the rails beneath them, watching the snow fall past the windows. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't planning or strategizing or running from grief. She was just existing in a moment, and it felt like coming home to a place she'd forgotten existed.
They were 2 hours from Boston when Emma woke up, disoriented and cranky until Marcus produced a sandwich from his backpack. We packed dinner, Emma explained to Diana around bites of peanut butter and jelly, because train food is expensive. Emma's learning about budgeting, Marcus said with amusement. She's become my financial advisor. You should spend less on coffee beans and more on marketing, Emma said seriously. That's what the YouTube video said. Diana couldn't help but smile. She's not wrong. Marketing is essential for small businesses. See, Daddy, Diana agrees with me and she's a bajillionaire. Billionaire, Marcus corrected gently, and Diana didn't get there by listening to YouTube videos. Actually, Diana said, some of my best ideas have come from unexpected sources, YouTube videos included. Emma looked triumphant. Marcus shook his head with affection. I've created a monster. They fell into easy conversation about the coffee shop, and Diana found herself genuinely interested. Marcus showed her pictures on his phone, a small storefront in Cambridge, warm and inviting, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. "We're doing okay," Marcus said. "Not getting rich, but keeping the lights on. Building something that's mine, that Emma can be part of. That matters more than a big salary ever did." "Have you thought about expanding?" Diana asked, then caught herself. "Sorry, occupational hazard. I can't help trying to optimize businesses." "No, actually, I'd love to hear your thoughts," Marcus said. "I know I'm leaving opportunities on the table, I just don't know which ones are worth pursuing." What followed was an hour of Diana doing what she did best: analyzing, strategizing, seeing patterns and possibilities. But this time, it wasn't about quarterly profits or shareholder value. It was about helping someone build something meaningful, something that would support his daughter and honor his wife's memory. Marcus listened intently, taking notes on his phone, asking smart questions. Emma dozed against her father's side, occasionally stirring to add her own 6-year-old insights that were surprisingly astute. "You should hire Diana," Emma mumbled at one point. "She's good at business stuff." "I don't think I can afford Diana's consulting rates, Bug," Marcus said with a smile. "What are your consulting rates?" Emma asked Diana seriously. Diana looked at this little girl, at her father, at the unexpected turn her Christmas Eve had taken. "For you? Free," she heard herself say. "Consider it a thank you for the hot chocolate and the reminder that I'm human." "I can't accept that," Marcus protested. "Your time is valuable." "My time has been spent on nothing but value extraction for 3 years. Maybe it's time I spent some of it on value creation for its own sake. Besides, you're doing me a favor. You're giving me something to think about besides quarterly reports and hostile board members." "Is your board hostile?" Emma asked with concern. "Some of them," Diana admitted. "They think I'm too young, too female, and too emotional to run the company." "That's sexist," Emma declared. "We learned about that in school. It's when people think girls can't do things just because they're girls." "Exactly right," Diana said. "And you're smarter than half my board members." "I like her, Daddy," Emma announced. "Can we keep her?" "Emma, people aren't puppies," Marcus said, but he was smiling. "We can't just keep them." "Why not?" Emma argued. "She's alone for Christmas, we have extra room, we always make too much food, and she needs friends who aren't hostile board members." Diana felt something catch in her throat. "That's very sweet, Emma, but I'm sure your father has plans." "Actually," Marcus said slowly, "if you're serious about being alone for Christmas, you're welcome to join us. It's just me, Emma, and my parents. Nothing fancy. Lots of food, chaotic present opening, probably at least one minor disaster. But you'd be welcome." Diana should have said no, should have politely declined and maintained appropriate boundaries. Instead, she found herself saying, "I'd like that. If you're sure I wouldn't be intruding." "You're not intruding. You're accepting an invitation. There's a difference."
The train pulled into Boston's South Station at 8:37 on Christmas Eve. Diana gathered her expensive luggage, feeling strangely reluctant to leave the cocoon of the train car, this space where she'd somehow become a different version of herself. "My parents are picking us up," Marcus said. "We can give you a ride wherever you're going." "I have a car service," Diana said automatically, then paused. "Actually, I think I canceled it when I thought I'd be flying. And the company's closed for the holiday." "Then you're definitely coming with us," Marcus declared. "Emma, help Diana with her smaller bag." Emma grabbed the designer carry-on with both hands, staggering slightly under the weight. "What do you have in here, Rox?" "Laptop, tablet, 3 chargers, and the weight of corporate responsibility," Diana said, which made Emma giggle. Marcus's parents were waiting outside, a couple in their 60s, bundled against the cold. His mother took one look at Diana's designer coat and expensive luggage and raised an eyebrow at her son. "Mom, Dad, this is Diana Wright. She's joining us for Christmas. Diana, these are my parents, Robert and Linda Chen." Linda's expression shifted from curiosity to recognition to poorly concealed shock. "Diana Wright, as in Wright Technologies, Diana Wright?" "That would be me," Diana confirmed, bracing for the inevitable change in behavior, the sudden deference or the suspicious distance. Instead, Linda smiled warmly. "Well, any friend of Marcus and Emma's is welcome in our home, though I should warn you, we're nowhere near as fancy as you're probably used to." "I'm not fancy," Diana protested. Your coat costs more than my car, Linda said matter-of-factly, but her tone was kind. But that's okay. Money doesn't make you good or bad, just means you have more coat options. Emma laughed. I like Grandma's philosophy. They piled into Robert's sedan, Emma insisting Diana sit in the back with her. The drive to Cambridge took 40 minutes through snow-covered streets, Emma providing running commentary on every Christmas decoration they passed. Marcus's parents lived in a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and looked out for each other. Christmas lights outlined the roof, a wreath hung on the door, and through the windows Diana could see a tree decorated with what looked like years of accumulated ornaments. It's not much, Marcus said as they pulled into the driveway, but it's home. It's perfect, Diana said, and meant it.
Linda Chen's kitchen was warm and chaotic in the best possible way. Pots bubbled on the stove, cookies cooled on racks, and everywhere Diana looked, there were signs of life being lived fully. Photos on the refrigerator, Emma's artwork hung with magnets, a calendar marked with school events and coffee shop hours. Okay, Linda said, tying an apron around her waist. Diana, can you cook, or are you one of those executive types who exists solely on takeout? I can cook, Diana said. My mother insisted I learn before I went to college, said no child of hers would starve from incompetence. Smart woman, Linda approved. You're on cookie decorating duty with Emma. Marcus, stop hovering and set the table. Robert, check on the roast. The evening unfolded with the kind of comfortable chaos Diana had forgotten existed. Emma took cookie decorating very seriously, creating elaborate designs with colored icing and sprinkles. Marcus set the table while arguing good-naturedly with his father about politics. Linda orchestrated everything with the calm competence of someone who'd been managing family dynamics for decades. And Diana, for the first time in 3 years, felt like she was part of something. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, not the woman who'd built an empire from grief. Just Diana, decorating cookies with a 6-year-old and laughing when the icing went everywhere. You're good at this, Emma observed, studying Diana's creation. I'm a little out of practice. Daddy says practice makes better, not perfect. Perfect is boring. Your daddy is very wise, Diana said. Dinner was served at 8, the table crowded with dishes and laughter. Robert said grace, thanking God for family, for unexpected guests, for the gift of presents. Diana felt tears prick her eyes again and didn't bother hiding them. Diana's a crier, Emma informed her grandparents seriously, but Daddy says that's okay because it means she has feelings. Ugh, Emma, Marcus groaned. Please stop psychoanalyzing our guest. It's fine, Diana said. She's not wrong. I'm apparently rediscovering my feelings after a 3-year absence. Good for you, Linda said approvingly. Feelings are inconvenient but necessary, like taxes and dental appointments. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Emma insisted on showing Diana every ornament on the tree, explaining the story behind each one. This one is from when Mama was alive. She made it at a craft fair. See, it has our handprints. Emma held up a salt dough ornament with 3 handprints pressed into it, 2 adult, 1 tiny. It's beautiful, Diana said softly. I miss her, Emma said matter-of-factly. But Daddy says she's always with us in the things we remember and the traditions we keep. That's why we ride the train every year. That's why we make her special cookies. That's why we're not sad all the time, because Mama wouldn't want that. Diana knelt down to Emma's level. Your Mama sounds like she was an amazing person. She was, and I think she'd like you. Why do you think that? Diana asked. Because you made my daddy smile real smiles today, not the pretend ones he uses when he thinks I'm not looking. Real ones. From across the room, Marcus's eyes met Diana's. In them she saw understanding, possibility, and something else. Something that made her heart beat faster. Diana woke up on Christmas morning in Marcus's childhood bedroom, temporarily displaced to the guest room. For a moment, she was disoriented, unsure where she was. Then memory returned. The train, the invitation, the decision to spend Christmas with strangers who'd somehow become less strange than the life she'd been living. She checked her phone. 17 missed calls from her assistant, 32 emails marked urgent, a text from her head of security asking if she'd been kidnapped. Diana stared at the messages, at the digital representation of her normal life, and made a decision. She typed out a message to her assistant. "I'm fine. Taking the rest of the week off. Handle any emergencies, delegate everything else. I'll see you next Monday." Then she turned off her phone. Downstairs, she could hear Emma's excited voice, the low rumble of Marcus laughing, Linda calling everyone to breakfast. The sounds of a family, and Diana was choosing to be part of it. She dressed quickly and headed down. "Merry Christmas!" Emma shouted, the moment Diana appeared, launching herself in a hug. "Can we open presents now? I've been waiting forever." "It's been 20 minutes, Marcus said, but he was smiling. 20 minutes is forever when you're 6, Emma argued. Breakfast was a quick affair of cinnamon rolls and coffee, everyone eager to move to the presents. Diana had nothing to give, hadn't thought to bring anything, but Emma declared that Diana's presence was present enough, which made the adults laugh, and Diana's eyes sting again. She watched as Emma tore through presents with the enthusiasm only a child could muster. Watched Marcus's face as his daughter exclaimed over each gift, her joy completely uninhibited. Watched Linda and Robert exchange the knowing glances of parents watching their child parent successfully. And Diana realized this was what she'd been missing. Not presents or traditions or even family specifically. Connection. The feeling of being part of something bigger than herself, something that couldn't be measured in profit margins or stock prices. "Diana," said suddenly, holding out a small wrapped box. "This is for you. Daddy and I got it last night while you were asleep." Diana took the box with trembling hands. Inside was a simple ornament, a small train with Christmas Eve 2024 painted on it, along with 3 small figures visible in the window. "It's us," Emma explained, "on the train, so you remember." "I'll never forget," Diana managed. "Thank you." "There's something else," Marcus said nervously. He pulled out an envelope, handed it to her. Inside was a card, handmade, with Emma's artwork on the front. But inside, in Marcus's handwriting, was an invitation. "Diana, you said yesterday you don't know how to choose life over work. Emma and I would like to help you practice, starting with a standing invitation to dinner every Sunday if you're free. No business talk, no strategy sessions, just dinner and conversation, and the reminder that you're human. What do you say?" Diana looked at the card, at the invitation to be part of their lives in a regular, ongoing way, looked at Emma's hopeful face, at Marcus's nervous expression, at Linda and Robert watching with approval. "And Diana, I say yes. I say yes to dinner, and yes to being human, and yes to whatever this is becoming." Emma cheered. Marcus smiled, real and genuine. And Diana felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years: hope.
The coffee shop was busier than Marcus had ever seen it. The new marketing strategy Diana had suggested was working. Social media presence, loyalty program, partnerships with local businesses. Revenue was up 40%, and Marcus had just hired his first full-time employee. But more than the business success, his life had changed. Sunday dinners with Diana had become sacred. She'd kept her promise, showing up every week unless she was traveling, and even then she'd video call to say goodnight to Emma. Diana had changed too. She still ran Right Technologies with competence and vision, but she'd also started delegating, trusting her team, taking actual days off. She'd even joined Emma's school's reading program, coming once a month to read to the first grade class. "She's part of our family now," Emma had declared one Sunday. "Can we make it official?" "What do you mean official?" Marcus had asked, though his heart had started racing. "I mean, are you going to marry her or not?" Emma had said with 6-year-old bluntness, "because she looks at you like you're the best thing ever, and you look at her the same way, and I think Mama would approve." Now, 6 months after that train ride, Marcus stood in Diana's corner office, looking out at the Boston skyline. Emma was in the conference room down the hall, charming Diana's assistant with stories about their latest adventure. "You're nervous," Diana observed, walking up behind him. "I can always tell when you're nervous. You do this thing with your hands." Marcus turned to face her. Diana wore a yellow dress, professional but softer than her usual armor, her hair loose instead of severely pulled back. She looked beautiful and real and possible. "Emma asked when I'm going to marry you," Marcus said without preamble. Diana's eyes widened. "She what?" "Yesterday, over breakfast. She said, and I quote, 'Daddy, you're being stupid. Diana obviously loves us, and you obviously love her. Just marry her already so we can be a real family.'" "Out of the mouths of babes," Diana murmured. "So what did you tell her?" "I told her that marriage is complicated, that we've only known each other 6 months, that there are practical considerations, and—" "Marcus," Diana interrupted, "what do you want to tell her?" Marcus took a breath. "I want to tell her that yes, I'm going to marry you. If you'll have me, if you'll have us. Not because it's strategic or practical or makes business sense, but because 6 months ago you paid for our train tickets, and somewhere between the hot chocolate and the Christmas lights, I fell completely in love with you." Diana's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "I haven't proposed yet," Marcus protested. "This was just preamble." "Then propose," Diana said, "properly." Marcus dropped to one knee, pulled out a small box he'd been carrying for 2 weeks. "Diana Wright, you walked into my life on a train crying at Christmas lights, and you reminded me that life can have second chapters. You made Emma laugh. You helped my business grow. You became part of my family so naturally it felt like you'd always been there. I don't have much to offer, a coffee shop, a small house, a daughter with too many opinions, but if you'll have us, I promise to show up every day and choose you. Choose us, choose this life we're building together. Will you marry me?" Diana dropped to her knees in front of him, not caring about her expensive dress or the undignified position. "Yes," she said. "Yes to you, yes to Emma, yes to the coffee shop and the small house and every Sunday dinner and train ride and moment of connection. Yes to choosing life. Just yes." Marcus slipped the ring on her finger, and they stayed there, kneeling on the floor of her office, holding each other, while outside the Boston skyline glittered in the afternoon sun. Emma found them like that 5 minutes later. "Finally!" she exclaimed. "Can I be at a wedding? Can I wear a red dress? Can we get a dog?" "Yes, yes, and we'll discuss the dog," Marcus and Diana said in unison, which made Emma cheer.
The train platform was crowded this Christmas Eve, full of people rushing to be where they needed to be. But Diana Wright stood calmly, her hand in Marcus's, watching Emma press her face against the window of the train car. "Same car as last time?" Emma asked, even though she knew the answer. "Same car," Marcus confirmed. "Same seats." "Same seats," Diana said. They boarded the train, settling into the first-class car that Diana had insisted on reserving for their annual tradition. Emma pulled out the thermos of hot chocolate, now prepared by all 3 of them together in their kitchen and the house they'd bought together in Cambridge, halfway between the coffee shop and Wright Technologies headquarters. "Tell the story again," Emma demanded, even though she'd heard it 100 times. "Tell me how you met." "Well," Marcus began, "it was Christmas Eve, and your daddy was trying to sneak into first class because someone gets motion sick." "Me," Emma interjected. "You get motion sick." "And this beautiful, terrifying woman decided to help us out." "I wasn't terrifying," Diana protested. "You were a little terrifying," Marcus said affectionately, "but in a good way. In a, I'm going to change your life way." "And she cried at the Christmas lights. That's when Daddy knew she had feelings." "That's when I knew she was human," Marcus corrected gently. "There's a difference." They settled in as the train began to move. 3 people who'd become a family through choice and connection and the willingness to be vulnerable. Emma fell asleep before the lights, worn out by excitement. Marcus and Diana sat together, her head on his shoulder, his hand playing with the wedding ring she wore. "Thank you," Diana said softly.
For what? Marcus asked. For speaking up on that train. For inviting me into your life. For teaching me how to be human again. Thank you for stopping. For helping us. For staying. For choosing us every day. The Christmas lights appeared, thousands of them glowing against the snow. Diana watched them through the window, no longer crying but feeling the emotion just as deeply. A year ago she'd been alone on a train, running from grief, convinced that success was all she had left. Now she had a husband, a daughter, a life that felt full instead of empty. Happy anniversary, Marcus murmured, kissing her temple. Happy anniversary, Diana echoed. And as the train carried them through the night, past the lights, and into their future, Diana Wright finally understood what her parents had tried to teach her all those years ago. Success wasn't measured in billions or empires. It was measured in moments like this: hot chocolate on trains, Christmas lights reflected in a child's eyes, and the warm weight of belonging to something bigger than yourself. She'd taken a silent train ride, and a single father had spoken up and changed everything. Not by offering solutions or strategies, but by offering connection, presence, and the reminder that being human was enough. More than enough. It was everything.
If this story touched your heart, you've just experienced what Becca's Stories is all about. We're on a mission to inspire your life and brighten your day through powerful narratives of transformation and human resilience. Stories that remind you that strength isn't about never falling. It's about who reaches out their hand and who you become because of it. Subscribe to Becca's Stories and become part of our community of believers in second chances, unexpected heroes, and the transformative power of human connection. Every week, we bring you new stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, of single parents who solve impossible problems, of moments that change everything. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to choose differently, to be human again, to let someone in. Comment below and tell us about a time when a stranger changed your life with a simple act of kindness. Your story might inspire our next narrative. Because here at Becca's Stories, we believe that every person has the power to transform a life, including their own. We'll see you in the next story, where resilience meets redemption, and single parents show us what real strength looks like. Until then, remember, sometimes the most important journey isn't to a destination, but to becoming who you were always meant to be.